Hey there, Adalo makers. Today we're going to look at a service called Mailersend that is as you can see, a transactional email and SMS service. So if you've ever wanted to send welcome emails, password resets, verification emails, transactional SMS, verification codes, all that sort of good stuff, this service is actually really good for that. So it's all kind of baked in here. There's a bunch of these types of services, but I thought I would just show you this service and kind of how to set it up using Adalo. If you scroll down here, you can see kind of all the features that they've got here. And at the very bottom of their page, you can see that they do integrate with Zapier. So if you're more comfortable doing it that way or with Make, you can do it with that, with those things as well. They have a very generous free plan in which you get 12,000 emails per month. And 1,000 API calls per month, which is how we're actually going to be using it, is through their API. And speaking of the API, I like this service because their API is extremely simple. There's no frills. It's not hard to read. You just go to, here's the base URL, whatever you want to perform. You've got email verification, and SMS, right? So those are kind of the three things that you have. And I like their motto here. We try to keep our documentation as clear and simple as possible. I like that. So if we click on this email here, you can see that there's a bunch of different things here. We can add domains via the API. We can schedule messages. We can add recipients to a list. We can verify a user's email with an API as well. So as soon as they sign up, instead of sending them an email, we can kind of verify that their email is legitimate on the back end without them knowing. And that kind of helps us do that. We're not going to look at this today, but this may be another topic for another video, but just know that that's a service that you can do. And then they also have sending SMS messages as well. Okay, so I'm already logged in here. When you first join Mailersend, you'll have to verify your email address, which I've already done. And there's just some steps here you'll want to agree to, kind of agreeing to their policies and things like that. So after you've reviewed the policies, you can actually add a sending domain. And this is the domain that your emails are actually going to come from. And I've got just a sample app. We're going to use, we're going to use swappingmeat.app. This is a kind of a demo app that I created a long time ago, so we'll just add that. And this will need to be a domain that you own and have access to. And we need to basically verify this sending domain as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to add some DNS records to our hosting provider. And this looks differently depending on where your DNS records are held. So I'm just going to speed through this. I like using Google domains, but if you use something else, yours will probably be very similar to this. But I'm just going to go ahead and add some of these DNS records. So we need basically three here. We need an SPF record, which is a TXT type with this value, or I'm sorry, this value here. We need another TXT with this value, and we need a CNAME with MTA and this value here. So I'm just going to kind of bust this out a little bit. I've already got Google Domains open, so I'm just going to click right here and copy this value here. And I need to remember that this is swappingmeat.app. And what this looks like in Google Domains, I'm going to go to my swappingmeat.app domain here and go over to DNS. And I'm going to click on this Manage Custom Records section here. And I've already got app.swappingmeat. This is where my app lives on Adalo. This subdomain is connected to Adalo. So I'm just going to go here and create a new record. And again, the type is TXT, just a text record here. And because it's on the actual domain itself, the swappingmeat.app, I'm just going to paste in this value that I copied here. We'll create a new record and go back here. So we can see that this one right here, this DKIM record, is mlsend all of this stuff, right? So I'm going to copy this, and you can see that it's already got swappingmeat.app appended to the end of it. I don't really need that portion of it. I really just need this portion for Google Domains. But again, depending on where you host your domain, this will change, right? So it's giving me a preview here, email sends. Okay, that looks correct there. So this is also going to be a TXT record. And the value is, if I go back here, is going to be this long thing here. So I'll copy that. I will paste this in here. And then we need to add one more record here. This is going to be this, create a CNAME record with this name. So mta.swappingmeet.app. And the record value needs to be mailersend.net. So I'm just going to copy this. And just like that thing said, I need to put MTA in here. This is a CNAME record, and the domain name is going to be mailersend.net. All right. So I'll click Save there. And you can see I've got all my DNS records here as a part of my swappingmeet.app domain here. So let me go back here. I don't need to turn either of these on, but I do need to check this box to say, yes, I've added these DNS records and I'd like to verify the domain here. All right. So once it's done, it can take up to 24 hours to verify that. But you can see that because Google is very quick at populating DNS records through the internet, and people trust Google, it verifies it very quickly. If you're using a lesser known DNS provider, it may take a minute to do this, up to 24 hours or so. All right. So once you do that, you can actually ask for approval. This Mailersend require is a little bit different from others in that they don't just let you start sending. And the reason that this is actually a good thing is because it protects your reputation as a sender, so that email clients don't reject emails that they receive. All right, so once your account is created and you are kind of awaiting for the approval process, while you're waiting, you can actually send up to 100 emails to people using the same domain. So in this case, we can send to people with a swappingmeet.app domain email. And to kind of get started here, I like going over to templates and using those. And I'm just going to create a new template here and use the drag and drop editor. You can certainly use one of the other ones if you want. And I'm going to scroll down here to this. Let's choose this notification one here. And you can certainly, change the logo and all that sort of stuff, right? So if I wanted to change this logo, I could click on this and, upload my own files and all that sort of stuff. I'm not going to get into all that. You can kind of customize this stuff on your own. It's really easy to just, kind of drag and drop in different things to this editor here. But instead of it saying tips and tricks here, I want it to say welcome. And then I want it to say like the person's name here, right? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in a handlebar or a placeholder here to this piece of text. And I'm going to do that with double handlebars here. And I'm going to say name, and then I'm going to put 2 handlebars. All right. And you can also do it with a dollar sign. That's how they show you doing it. But I just think it's easier to just use two curly brackets on either side, right? So that's how we're going to put in our placeholders here. You can put in other placeholders if you want, like they've got one down here for account name. We don't really need that. I'm just going to use, one kind of placeholder for now. Email, add email. Okay, so we've got one placeholder here for the person's name so that the email is a little bit more customized. All right, so we'll go ahead and save this. And there's a couple of different things that we want to do to this template. The first is you can give it a name if you want. And then the second is turning on these default settings here. And this is where we'll want to put in some info like, welcome to my app as the subject. This is from Patrick at Swapping Meet. And this doesn't actually have to be a real email, so I'm just going to put no reply at swappingmeet.app. And the replies should be sent to this probably should be, right? So Patrick, and the reply email is hello at swappingmeets.app, but you can use, of course, whatever real email you've got, and you can apply some tags to this template as well if you want, all right? So I'll go ahead and save the changes here. And the cool thing about this is that we don't actually have to go into the API documentation at all if you don't want to. Now you can, but the API instructions for this template specifically this template are right up underneath it. So you can see that the only thing that it doesn't give me is the bearer key for our custom action, right? But before we get to pasting this in and creating our custom action in Adalo and all that sort of stuff, let's go ahead and actually create an API key so that we can actually access the API. So we can do this over in Settings, and we'll click on this API Tokens tab here. And I'm just going to generate a new token, and we'll call this swapping meet. We'll just give it access to all domains, but you can specify specific domains if you have multiple. And we do want it to have full access to the API. So we'll create this token, and it's only going to show you this once. You can't get back to this to view it again. So I like to copy it and then go directly to Adalo. And let's just say that, when a user signs up, I want to, as soon as they visit the home screen, I want to trigger a welcome email if they have not already been sent one, right? So I'm going to go to this home screen here and add an action. And we're going to do a custom action, new custom action. And we will call this send welcome email. And the type is just going to be a create. We'll hit next. And we will paste in the base URL in a second, but let's go ahead and get this API key out of our clipboard that we've copied, right? So I've got my API key. I've copied it here. Let's go back to the templates so that we can see the API instructions here for this specific template. If we scroll down, you can see that even down here, it's got the template ID for us, but it's telling us that in order to authorize to the API, we need a header here called authorization and then bearer and then our key, okay? So that's what we're going to do. We'll go in here, and before we do anything else, we'll add a header here called authorization. Oops, if I can type authorization. And then this is going to be bearer and then a space, and then we will paste that in. And I like to go in here and just backspace this space out and then put another space in to create kind of a line break there. Not an enter, but a space. And that helps the API key get put in correctly. All right. So I'll click this red bar here to kind of collapse that. Now that we've got our authorization header, we can copy in some of these other headers and the base URL here. So you can see that it's a post request to this base URL here. So we'll just copy this base URL, api.mailersend.com v1 email. It was a post. And we'll go ahead and add in the other headers that are a part of this request. So in this case, it's content type is the name of this one. And the value of that is just application/JSON. These are very common headers to be sent in custom actions. We've got this X requested with header that we'll add. And the value of this one is just XML HTTP request. All right, so we've got our headers in there. And the last thing that we need to do is just copy the JSON body here. And I'm just copying just the brackets. So I'm leaving out these the little quotes, the little apostrophes that are there. All right. So I'll just copy this. We will paste the JSON body in here, and now we can go in and we can actually change some of this stuff. So the email that this is coming from is actually going to be just that, no reply at swappingmeet.com. All right. And the to email, this is where we will actually need to add an input here. So I'm just going to add a text input. We will call this to email. And I'm going to use just kind of an alias here, demo@adalo.com. All right. And then we also need one for the name, right? Because you can see here that we've got personalization, and this is for the email, and then we've got a data block here for the name of that person, right? That's a part of that. And this property is here because we put in that little placeholder in the template itself, all right? So let's go ahead and add a name property here. This is going to Jim, all right? So now we can kind of replace these with the inputs that we just made, all right? So the to email is the to email. And the personalization here, we can also just kind of replace this as well. Recipient is the to email, and the name is just that input that we made just now, all right? And we've got our template ID already in there that we copied from Mailersend, okay? So the to email, actually, let's go ahead and change this to hello at swappingmeat.com, because remember, it does have to be, because our account is not approved yet, it does need to be to the same domain here, all right? So, and oops, I just noticed this is from no reply at swappingmeat.com. That's not right. This needs to be .app. That's the domain. Yes. Okay. So, and with that, we can actually run the test request here. And you can see that the test was actually successful. So we will go ahead and save this custom action. And now we've got our inputs here where we can access the logged in user's email and send that in the action, and the logged in user's full name and send that in the action as well, okay? So if we go to email, you can see that it did actually send our email from no reply at swappingmeat.app to welcome Jim to the app. And there's our subject right there as well. Welcome to my app, all right? So it's pretty cool. It's really pretty straightforward to set up. You don't even have to dive into any API documentation if you don't want to. And these templates, they look really good. And you can, they're highly customizable, and they're pretty easy to incorporate into your Adalo app. What I like to do as well is, in the database here to the users collection, I may add like a true false property here that says something like welcome email sent. All right. And then an update action on this screen that updates the logged in user to yes, it was sent. And on the send welcome email, I like to add some conditional actions here to say, only send a welcome email if the logged in user's welcome email sent is false, right? So that's kind of how you can build like a very simple welcome email system. And you can do that for all sorts of things, verification codes, all that sort of stuff. But Mailersend is a really powerful service that you can use that with a very generous free plan that lets you kind of scale up as your app scales as well.